So I was called to diagnose this vehicle, and the issue with the vehicle is the remote is not working. So I was called to diagnose it. And if you place the remote in the remote cap, if you place the remote in the remote cap, it will work. Let me shut it off. You can see my light turns on. So that's the only place that it takes signal from. So with this GM, you have to turn on the key for a while, then you wait for like 10 to 12 seconds, it will turn on automatically. So it turns on when the key is in the armrest. When the key is not there, it will not work. The stop starts the when the key is not there, it's not work. So let me turn the ignition off. Now that the ignition is off, when you press the remote, it doesn't work. So I'm here to diagnose. I've diagnosed it. So what we did was we changed the BCM. And still the problem was still persisting. The remote, you can't even turn on. So the moment you try turning it on, you can see it tells you no remote detected, and you can see my light is flashing because the remote is in the car, but it is not in the cap, the armrest, so it will not work. And this is a 2021 Chevrolet Saban silverado, so 5.3. So with this one I can select any of the transmissions, then so that I can go through it properly. So let me turn on the ignition on. Before the ignition can be on, I have to place the key here. That one, the light wouldn't flash for long, so we'll wait for that 10 seconds. Now that the ignition is on, let me select any of them and let's just move to it. So when the key is in the cap, the armrest, it will work. And we've programmed a new BCM, and the problem is still persisting. So the problem is still persisting, but with this issue I was able to identify the problem, so we just move straight to the point so that the video will be a short video. So you scan it and you wouldn't get any fault code in the system, and if you check online or you read much about it, you not get much information about the system, how it works and everything. So you can see I'm having 13 fault codes. So let me erase all of them. There are not any major problems, so let me erase all of them, and let's get to the main issue. So after erasing all of them, you wouldn't get any issue that much. So you can see there is no fault code. So let me turn off the ignition and turn it back on, then rescan it and see the fault code that I'll get. I'll bring you guys back. So after scanning it again, there is no fault in the system. No, I'm only able to scan some few modules, so let me check why. So now I'm able to scan most of the modules. It's almost like 18 modules, so I'm able to scan all of them. So let me erase all the fault code and see the remaining one, because I disconnected the BCM. So what I did was maybe my breakout box was causing the issue. I was using this breakout box, so I think maybe that's why I couldn't scan the whole system. So now there is no fault code in the system. Let me rescan it. This is where the issue is. There is no any fault code to guide you on what to do actually. So you wouldn't get any fault code like to guide you that, oh, this is where the issue is. Let me turn the ignition back on. So we'll wait to see. I'm able to scan all those modules, and there is no fault code to guide you like, oh, I'm going to this point and it's telling me every antenna in the vehicle, there's one antenna behind the radio, it is working perfectly, and there is this antenna also. Even if you disconnect the keyless control module, this car will still start because this thing is linked to the BCM, so it will still start. So the sensing unit in the cup holder in this at this place is linked, I think it's linked direct to the BCM. So even if you disconnect the keyless module, this car will still start. And this car has keyless module and it has remote control. It has a remote control receiver and it has the BCM. So these three units consist of the vehicle starting and responding, and there are other antenna in the door handles. So there are like two antennas in the door handles. So now that there is no fault code, this is where we get stuck. And hopefully God helped me, Holy Spirit gave me wisdom to go about it. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to test the signal on the remote control receiver. That's what should receive the signal, the key frequency and everything. So if the remote control receiver is not receiving the key frequency, the car is never going to start. And even if you disconnect it, the BCM will not be able to see it, that it has been disconnected or there is any issue with it. So even if you check our BCM, this is the BCM. There is no fault in the BCM. There is no fault in the BCM. And yeah, let me do double. So let me go into, there is no fault in the BCM. So at this point, there is no fault anywhere for us to go. So what I'll do is, let me go and test the BCM. The remote receiver has 4 wires. Let me check. Let me bring you to my wire. So this is the keyless control module, and the keyless control module has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 antennas, and you can see this communication line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scope this communication line anytime the BCM is active or any signal is being sent related to the key frequency and the key ID. This line, this network should be active, which is the computer line should be active. So what I'll do is, now let me show you the wiring diagram. This is the OEM diagram. Let me show you the wiring diagram of the antenna, of the remote control receiver. So this is the connection. So this is the remote control door lock receiver. So if you can see, it has power and ground. I've tested it and my power and ground are okay, and both power and ground comes from the BCM, and it has two communication line. You can see it has two communication line. There is yellow and green, then there is blue and white. So it has two communication line. So what we are going to do is we will test both of them. So the whole thing is, I tested both of them and they were giving me signal. So the 2 brings signal to the unit, then the 3 takes it back. But what I did was I shot this to ground, the 3 to ground, then I started receiving signal from it to the BCM. It started sending signal to the BCM. Do you get it? So we will do that test, then we'll see the signal that it will send to the BCM, then we'll take it from there. So now what I'm going to do is, I've tested all this way, so I'm going to test it again so that we'll see what we are talking about. So now I've set my scope up. So this one, I'm going to test, or one has to be power, which has to come from, so there is the location of the remote receiver. So there is it. So the customer already bought the BCM, and I diagnosed it and I told him he should get me a new remote receiver. So he got the remote receiver for me with the same part number, and the problem was it was still not working. So that means I made a wrong call and it was still not working. Sometimes you make mistakes. So the same part number. So now what I'll do is let me disconnect so that we see the 1 and 4, one has power, one has ground, then the 2. So let me do, so you can see my test light turns on because I've connected the 1 and the 4. So that tells me that my 1 and 4 has power and the power is coming. So even if you disconnect this thing, the BCM is not going to see it and report any fault. So what I'll do is let me use the scope, and anytime you can see this, my scope is active. Anytime that scope there is signal, it will send signal to the BCM. So let me start and see where my power is. So that's my ground, that's the 4. So if you can see the colors, that's the 4, and let's go to the 3. So with the 3, you can see I'm getting some voltage on the 3. So that tells me that the 3 is the voltage coming from the BCM. So then 1 has to be out of the BCM, and you can see I'm getting 0, no voltage. That's the 2, and this is my 1, and my 1 gives me power. That's why you can see it here. So if I change my voltage, or if I bring my, let me change my voltage to 5, and you can see now, you can see the voltage is around 12 volts. So that tells me that the power and ground, everything is okay. So let me show you what we did. So we are going to ground this test light. To play safe, we are going to ground this test light. You can see, let me plug this thing back in. We are going to ground the test light. So now I've plugged it back in. We are going to ground this test light. So let me ground the test light to this same body ground that we are picking. So anywhere it sees power, it should turn on, and this one is power. So that means it turns on, and that's power. And what I'm coming to do is I'm grounding it, and I'll be grounding it through there. And now I'm connecting this to the pin 2. As we said, I'm connecting it to the pin 2. So after connecting it to the pin 2, now you can see I'm getting voltage on pin 2. So let me change my voltage. You can see now that I've changed my voltage to 2 volts per division, you can see I'm getting like 5 volts, because the 5 volts is from this green, green and yellow. So what I'm coming to do now is I'm coming to ground it, and you can see this scope, I've set it up for communication. So whenever there's any communication, the scope should be active. And I'm coming to ground the voltage here. So let me put it here on this. So this is where my ground is. So let me ground it. So now I'm coming to ground it. And the reason why I'm using the test light is the test light really plays safe mode here. So the test light is a bit safe, because when there is any excessive current, the test light will turn on so that it doesn't blow the control unit. So if even it doesn't blow the BCM, because that signal goes back to the BCM. So I'm using the test light, which is safe, so that whenever there is excessive current, the test light will take that current and turn on. My test light handles 100 milliamps, so any voltage above 100 milliamps will turn on my test lights. So now what I'm coming to do is I'm coming to press the key, and you can see the moment I press the key, you can see that there is communication on this, and there is nothing here, although I've grounded it. Because I've grounded it, so there is nothing here, and you can see there's communication. Let me change my scope time base. Let me change my time base to, let me change it to somewhere we can get it. We can get the communication quickly. So now you can see my door locks and unlock, because I have grounded I've grounded, and you can see my scope is reading, which tells me that the BCM is up and there's communication on the low speed can, which is the GM speed can. So when I come back here, let me do double unlock, and you can see the car just honk at me. The moment I disconnect this ground, when I disconnect this ground, and now you can see the voltage is up again, and this thing will go to sleep. The moment it goes to sleep, that means there will not be any communication. You can see I'm pressing the remote, but nothing is working. Nothing is working on the remote. And normally this car too has this, so when you press it, the signal will, like the system will be up, but it is not receiving any signal from the remote. So you can see the remote doesn't work, nothing is working, and you can see the signal is out. But see, the moment I ground this thing, and it's not giving me any fault code in the BCM. The moment I ground it, now that it's grounded and I'm seeing it on my scope that is grounded, when I press unlock button, my CAN lines comes active, or let me say my communication lines comes active. So this is another communication for GM. So you can see I've unlocked it, and let me lock it, and you can see it is honking. So when I disconnect it, it will go off. I don't know why the BCM is not supplying that ground. I don't know if it is the BCM that has to supply it, or it is the unit that has to supply the ground. Really, I can't tell, because if I place if I fix this one, it will still happen the same way. So you let me do that, because I made the customer bought it, so I have to pay for it. So this is the new one, and this is the used one, because when I was removing it, I didn't know how it was fitted, so I broke this leg. So this is the new one. So let me fix this new one to that source and short it to ground. So now that the new one is fitted, so the new one is fitted, and you can see the new one is fitted, and let me press the remote, and the network is still asleep. There is nothing working here. There is nothing working here. So when your receiver is faulty, there is the kind of problem you'll be having. But the moment I shut it, so let me shut it to ground, you can see the line is up. So now that I've shut it to ground, and when I press, you can see my inside light turns on, and if I unlock it, my inside light turns on, and that tells me that the issue is from the ground. So I don't know if, so when I double click, the boot opens, and I have to close it. So I don't know what to do. So now I don't know if I should give it ground so that the remote will be working, or I'm going to do more research on it, because you don't get more information on it, how to go about it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. So now it is fixed, and let me unlock the vehicle and start the car. So now let me start the car with the remote on my legs. Let me just turn it on first. 1, 2. You can see. So let me start it. So I don't have the remote. I don't have the remote in the cap. I can turn it off and turn it back on, and you can see my light didn't flash. So let me do that again. It flashed because now it didn't flash because the car is seeing the keys in, and we don't need that. We don't need that to ask for keys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. So you can see, so I can even turn the ignition off and lock, unlock, then lock, double lock, then unlock. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. So after running, now that the car is running, let me see if I'll find any fault in the system. So now that the car is running, I don't feel any temperature getting higher, and my test light is still off, and you can see the communication line is going on perfectly. So now all I need to do is rescan the system and see if I'll find any fault. If I don't find any fault, then I have to find a way of adding ground to that wire for it to work, because all the customer needs is his car is working and it can remotely, the remotes are working, because the kind of pressure they are giving me, I've not slept for 2 days on this car just to find the problem and fix it. So let me see if there is any fault after giving it ground, and you can see that there is no fault. So still the 18 control modules, and there is no fault, and my can line to is my speed, my GM line is okay. So if you can see now, so now what we've done is, now we've shot this one to ground. That's the pin 3, blue and white. We've shot it to ground. That's pin 3. So the pin 4 is the one that has the 12 volt on it. So we've shot pin 3 to ground, and the system is now working. I really don't know why, but when we shot it to ground, it is now working. So I don't know if the BCM has to ground it and the BCM is not grounding it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm done with it. So I'll just find a place to tap ground for it so that it can work for now. And I think it's on pin X126. So that's what I'll do. I'll search for it and tap ground for it, then see why it's not working. Even if you disconnect it, it will not give you any fault. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. So now that I know the issue is ground that is not going to this unit, what I've done is I'm trying to do continuity testing, and my multimeter is on continuity. So whenever there is there should be a beep. So what I'm going to do is, so I have to trace on this blue and white too, and you can see the OEM diagram shows me that there is a connector here. So I have to also trace the connector, but before that I have to test continuity from this point to this point. But now my probe is at this point, so I have to check this point from the BCM. So that's pin 20. So now what I have to do is I have to check continuity on this wire, which is this blue and white, which is 26 as it's saying. So this white connector is the X1, so I have to check, and there is 26 that they've written on it, so I have to check this one. So we'll check and see if I'll get continuity. And now I've connected it to it. So now what I'll do is I'll see if I'll get any continuity. There's no continuity. So what I'll do is I'll jump from this side to the wire and see if the sensor will work. If it works, then that means there is a break at this point, which is this connector. So I have to find for this X275 and search why that connector is not connected. So let me do that, and now I've disconnected the ground. So there is no ground wire here, so because of the continuity. So now let me just tap it here and do the connection and see if everything works. Then I have to search for this connector. So now what I've done is I've connected the sockets back. So I'll just jump this to this side, but before that let me leave it this way and test the remote and see. Nothing is working. My remote, nothing is working, and the moment I press the push to start button, The moment I press the push to start button, my device in the hole, you can see no remote detected, and my device in the hole is also flashing, you can see. So now let me do the jumping and see if it will work. If it works, then that means there is a break at that point. Yes, and it is working. So if you can see, it is now working perfectly after I jumped the wire from this point to the back there. So now the remote is working perfectly. So at this point I know the issue. Yeah, all the two remotes are working perfectly, so I know the issue is from that. So now I know the issue is from this socket. The issue is from this socket. So let me go, and so this is the socket. So this is the socket that I have to search for, and my issue is at pin 55. So this is 53, so that means it will be at this point. So I have to search for it and see why it is behaving that way. So it's the connector issue. So now that I have jumped it here, now everything is working perfectly, and I don't need to send ground to the unit again. So now I think what I'll do is I have to scope it and see the signal that I'll get. So so now you can see my scope is at 0. Let me ground my scope. Okay, so now my scope is at 0, and I've connected the wires. I've jammed the wires, so from the back to the unit here. So I've done that connection. So my scope is at 0, and now that means it needs grounds to work. So everything is working, so I can have the remote with me. As I have jammed it, the remote is on my thighs, and I can start the car, and it starts perfectly. So then I have to search for that connector. Yeah, so I have to search for that connector. So now everything is working perfectly. And even if so the whole issue is, if that thing is disconnected, you are not going to get any message to show you that there is the issue. So I think it is due to the connection. So now I'll find for that point, and I'll call it a fix. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. So I'll search for the socket and see if I'll be able to find it, then see what the actual issue is. So now I don't need to put, the keys can be here, and the car will start perfectly. So this tells me that everything is working. So now all I have to do is to search for the socket and work it out. So after a little search, I got to find out that the location is at this side, which is at the passenger side. So if you see number 2, then when you go down, it shows us that it is this Henderson. So I'll go there to open it up. Then so this is the location of the socket from the wiring diagram that I'm seeing. So if you can see these two things, so I'll take this socket out, then test and see if I'll get the signal here. Then I'll see why the signal is not going to its destination. Then maybe I'll continue my tracing. So now I found the pin. So it's at this pin. So that's the 55. And you can hear the beeping sound. So now I have to trace from this point back to the unit and see where the actual problem is. So this morning also I've traced this goes to this point. So it goes from the BCM, it goes to the junction box here, and it passed through the dash and comes out here also. So I checked here and it was beeping. So that means I have to check through. I have to check through the lines, and I came to check here. It is beeping. I think it's contact issue. So it is beeping from here to this side. So that means it's so. This tells me that from this point to this point there's continuity. To the sensor itself, to the receiver itself, there's continuity from this point. So the brake could be at this point, at this line. So that's what I'm coming to check. That means I have to remove all this cable and examine and see where exactly the brake is, because you can hear the beeping from the back. If I test it here, that's continuity from this to this. It works all right. So now that I've done the connection, you can hear the multimeter is beeping. So that means the brake will be within this side. So I've come to remove all these things and check where exactly the brake will be. So now I've narrowed it down. I'm testing here and the BCM, and you can hear the beeping. So that tells me that the continuity is okay. There's continuity from there to this side. So what I'm going to do is, that means the brake will be from this point to this point. That's where the brake is. So now I have to remove the whole wire and identify where the brake is, but I'll be doing it bit by bit so that I can get the actual place that the brake is. So you can hear the beeping now. So what I'm going to do is, I'm coming to jump it to see if the vehicle and everything will be working for now. So now to verify my fix, I've jumped this to this. So I've jumped this point to this point. So now let's see, you can see the car is working. Yeah, everything is working now, and I'm having the key, and the ignition can even easily turn on. So that tells me that the ignition turns on whilst the key is in my hand. So let me turn it off. So I have to cut these wires and find where exactly the brake is. Now, as I said, the issue will be around this side. When I opened it up, you can see the damage here. So this is the wire, and you can see, sorry, this is the wire, and you can see the damage. So when you pull it from this side, you can get it. So this is where the brake is, and there is the other wire. So I have to examine and see. That's why I wanted to diagnose and find the actual place. So it looks like the wire has corroded, and it was a time bomb, and there is nothing. So I'll join the wire here, then I'll clean this part and re-tape it and make sure no other wire is affected. So I don't know what happened or what pierced it, but if you look, it is. So what I'm going to do is, now I have to join these two wires, and from my point of view, nothing happened to the rest of the wires. I don't know how it happened, what happened, and water went into it and cut the wires or damaged the wires. So now what I'll do is, I'll join these two wires and my problem will be fixed, and now the remote will start working, everything will start working. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. So I'll do the joining of the wires. You can see that I just turned this part, and that means the wire is really cold. So I just have to do it and join the wires, find another wire, or use a heated insulation to do the joining. Then I'll call it a fix. Then I'll check the signal on that side, then I'll fix everything back. Now what we are coming to do is, you can see my scope now. So this is the receiver. So I'm on pin 2. Yeah, let me check my wire. So this is pin 2. So I'm doing this video so that anytime I face this issue, I know what to come and check for. So this is pin 2, and you can see I'm measuring a voltage of, let's say, 5 volts. So let me go to pin 1 after you getting your power and ground. And pin 1, you are getting a feed from the control unit, because now I've disconnected the wire which connects. So the pin 3 has to connect to the BCM, and if it is not connected to the BCM, this is what you see. So now what I'll do is, let me connect the BCM cable and let me see the voltage I'll get on this. You can see I'm getting the feed from pin 3, pin 2. So let me connect the cable. So this is the broken cable. This is the BCM cable, the cable that connects the BCM and the RF, the BCM and the remote control receiver. So now that I've connected it, you can see the signal that we are getting on that line. So this is the signal. This is the signal. Let me move it to, so I'm on, if you can see it properly, I'm on pin 3. So now let me move to pin 2, and it should be the same signal when it is grounded. You can see the same signal. Now I have the remote key with me. So the moment it signals the remote key, you can see you are getting some signal, because now it's seeing the remote inside the key, inside the car. When it is outside the car, you can see you don't get any signal. But when it is inside the car, that's where it starts to give you the prompt searching for the key. So now what I'm coming to do is, I've not even pressed it. You can see it comes in anytime it sees it inside the car. So now let me press it and let's see the communication we are going to get. Yes, so you can see it has changed and everything has changed. So if I want to do anything, I can change my time base so that I can get it clearer, the correct signal. Oh wow, this is a horrible signal. I don't know if it's an interference or something. So this is the signal you are getting. So if everything goes to sleep, you start seeing it one by one. And now the lock and unlock button, you can see the unit comes up and goes down. So it's now working because of the wire. So anytime you are doing this, you have to be very careful. Check your signal lines. It was a straight line. So now that there is communication, let me disconnect that wire. So when I disconnect that wire, you see it to be only a straight line, whereby there is no communication between the BCM and the radio receiver because of the pin 3. Do you get it? So now you can see it's just a straight line on both pins. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. So now the wires has been repaired. So now after fixing everything in the car, you can see the cup holder. I don't have the key in it again. So moment of truth starts whilst the key is in my pocket and the car is running perfectly. The car is running perfectly with no issues. So I'll call it a fix. Call the client to come and pick up his car. Then I'm done with it. So let me turn it off. You can see when I take the key out of my pocket. Where is the key? Okay, I have it. When I press lock and unlock, everything works. Everything works. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more videos.